2024 meeting of the City of Summit's Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'm Joe Steiner, and I chair the board. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here at City Hall. The meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed on the city's YouTube page. It's also broadcast on Summit's governmental channel, which is Comcast Channel 34 and Verizon Channel 30. A transcript of this meeting is also being taken using the video and audio, so we need all speakers to utilize one of the microphones here in the room. Please note that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Chairman Steiner?
Yes, here.
Vice Chairman Loikitz?
Here.
Mr. Yuko?
Here.
Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Ms. Zahn?
Here.
Mr. Curran is excused. Mr. Malay?
Here.
Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Chifo?
Here.
Mr. Feskins is excused. Mr. Chanchuli?
Here.
You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Okay. Now for some introductions. The gentleman to my right is Andy Ball, the zoning board's attorney. If the applicant has an attorney, they will work together on all legal issues, and Mr. Ball will advise the board on any issues in the law that may apply to the case. Stephanie Sulios is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. She works with applicants on preparing their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. Also present is Carl O'Brien from Collier Engineering, our board's engineering firm. He's seated at the table to our right. The audience is left. The expert, we sometimes have two of them, provide input to the board, but they do not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Before we enter into executive session, we will advise you how many votes are required. Each case begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application process to date and the variances that are required. We then hear from any additional expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. Board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Once the board members and the board professionals have completed their questioning, the public has an opportunity to ask questions. That's not the time to tell us what you think about the case. That opportunity will come a little bit later. Before you ask your question, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. And again, it's important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record, so you need to come to one of the microphones. After all the witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time you can express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we enter into executive session where the board members will discuss the case and vote. You'll be able to listen to our executive session, but normally you will not be able to participate in that discussion. The city zoning officers ask that we remind all applicants that they must read carefully the resolution that documents the board's decision and to pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. If you have questions about any of the conditions, please consult with your experts or city staff through Ms. Sulios. The resolutions documenting the board's decision will normally be available 1 month after we decide the case. Initially, we are going to ask the applicants to come forward and tell us how many witnesses they have and whether or not they can complete their case in 30 minutes. First, we have, I guess we have 2 cases to handle administratively. The first one is 479 Morris Avenue. We have 477-79 Morris Avenue. We've received a letter from Cali Law. Is anyone here from there? Okay. Basically, their letter requests that we, which I think was sent to the whole board, that they would like to allow this letter to serve as our request to carry the matter to September 16th without the need for further notice, and the applicant consents to an extension of time for the board to act.
And I'll just also note that I had the discussion with
Yes.
Mr. Cali. This has been going on for a while now. There were initial plan revisions, and this request to carry is due to their experts being unavailable during the summer. They did confirm that the September 16th date that they're now requesting will be a firm date. Their experts are all available, and they will proceed on that date.
Okay.
So when did they first carry this?
I believe it was November, December was the first hearing. There were plan revisions through earlier this year. I don't remember the exact dates.
It was February, March.
And then I think it was scheduled in April or
April
May.
11th is the date of the application.
So it's
Oh,
probably,
wrong. No, this is wrong one.
I'm
Okay.
just wondering
I picked up
about the
wrong
notice
one.
part of it. I feel like they should maybe have to renotice if it's been carried that much, that far, and more than once.
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Well,
But we
It's
can't-
also a
we can't
significant-
proceed with them tonight because they're not here.
right, it's also a significant renotice burden.
The only thing we could do tonight is
Mhm.
reject it out of hand.
well, no,
no.
we
And we're
we
not
could
gonna do
grant it.
that.
I think the question is whether or not you want to require additional notice.
I would like to require additional notice.
I agree. I think,
Well, I think you should make a motion and
I'm-
vote on it.
I make a motion to require
So it's
renotice.
Defer it until, with further notice.
Yes,
Okay. We're adding it into the
yes,
motion too.
yes.
So just make that into the motion.
Second.
Second,
I second.
roll call?
Yes. Chairman Steiner?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Loikis?
Yes.
Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Zahn?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes,
The motion carries.
And the second one is Elena Holdings. And you guys handled that, I guess, on the phone or something? I did not.
Ms.
Good evening. I am
Alfonso is
here just in
Hi
case.
there.
How are you this evening?
Please.
The applicant would request an adjournment to the next hearing to allow them to address the request for additional calculations for the stormwater. I believe it's in Collier's report. And they're also in ongoing discussions with an interested neighbor. They're trying to work out details of a resolution.
And this one came in on April 11th. That's the one I picked up by mistake.
but this is the first scheduled hearing.
I think
for
so,
it.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So motion to carry to which date?
September 16th?
And just for the record, if by chance something happens that they change the application or change some of the variances, they'd have to renotice at that point anyway, correct?
Yeah.
Right, but they're not.
I'm not anticipating that, but I guess you never can be 100% sure.
Correct, and if we're making a motion now to carry without notice and something does change and it prompts the legal requirement to give that additional notice, they have to comply with that.
Right.
And we'll want to.
And you're waiving the time for the board to act.
Yes, of course.
Well, I have a question. I mean, this also is a steep slope variance, and the project is obviously under construction. Are there other, like, additional slopes that are going to be impacted between now and September
No,
16th?
they're under a duty to not touch any further slopes. They have everything silt fenced. They just went over there today to make sure it actually is still up. Looks like it is to me.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Motion to carry to September 16th.
Okay.
I'll second that.
And just confirming that's without notice, right?
Without notice.
Yes.
Correct.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I did. I'll second it.
Okay,
Don?
gotcha. Okay, Chairman Steiner?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Loiketz?
Yes.
Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Zahn?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now back to the normal order of business. Mary Ann Sacco, 24 Huntley Road. If you would come up and tell us how many witnesses you have and whether or not you think it can be completed in 30 minutes.
Hi, good evening, Board. Yes, I have 3 witnesses, and yes, I believe that it can be completed in 30 minutes.
2 witnesses?
2. Sorry, 2.
Okay. 3 witnesses. Okay,
Three guests, but 2 witnesses.
Okay.
Yes.
fine. You'll be the first case up.
Okay.
And the last case we'll hear tonight is 42 Nob Hill. Mark Shilsky?
Yes. Hi, Mark Shilsky, 42 Nob Hill Drive. I'm here, my architect, Joseph Haro, is coming, he'll be here on time. We can definitely do it in 30 minutes.
Okay, well, you'll be the second one, so hopefully you'll get here.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, all right, Mary Ann Sacco, please come up. And, yes, you can, we need to turn those around, we'll do that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't, none of us saw it. We were just so used to this place being run. The Scouts have an event in here.
All right,
Okay.
and if you could please raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matters, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Mary Ann Sacco, Sacco.
Thank you.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the application
Yes.
and your witnesses?
Yes, so my name is Mary Ann Sacco, and I grew up in this house in 24 Huntley Road. I lived in New York City for about 30 years and just moved back and made it my primary residence in June 2022. And I'm working at an independent school in the area. I love Summit. I went to Summit High School. Happy to be back and be a part of the community again. I wanted to make, the houses, one of the 1950s, like ranch-style houses on Huntley Road, although there are a few of them that have become much larger. But I want to make the space more livable and also updated. So I'm making some light and modest additions to the house that are complementary, I believe, to the style and the scale of most of the houses remaining in the neighborhood. So I'm really excited, and I appreciate my architects and their design, which they'll explain further. The house is, my family was only the second owners of the house, so it's been in my family for a long time. So thank you. And I think,
And your witnesses are?
yes, Leah Danderin and Mike DiGeronimo.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, would you like to call your first witness?
Yes, Leah Danderin. Do I stay here?
That's,
Okay.
yes.
You can go either way you want, but just use a microphone.
No, I feel okay. Mhm.
ready, just let me know.
Okay. Okay, I'm ready.
If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Leah Dandurand, Dandurand.
Thank you. And can you briefly describe your background and experience for the board, please?
Sure. I am the associate architect at Clausen Architects. I'm a registered licensed architect in the state of New Jersey.
And how long have you been practicing?
About 2 years as a licensed
Okay.
professional.
Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept her credentials?
Just because it's a standard question, have you appeared before other local boards?
No.
Or- This is it?
This is it.
Oh, boy.
Your premiere, okay. Your license is in good standing?
Yes,
Okay. And you're licensed in New Jersey, any other states?
just New
Okay.
Jersey.
All right, let's proceed.
Okay. So, as you may have gleaned from Marianne's introduction, our intention is to honor the history of her family home while updating the spaces to support her current lifestyle and personal taste. The existing first floor plan on the left illustrates the singular shared bathroom and cramped kitchen. As such, the proposed floor plan includes 2 primary additions towards the backyard. One addition will be an ensuite bathroom that will facilitate privacy and eventual aging in place. The second addition creates a more functional kitchen that connects the heart of the home to the landscape, both important features for a lifelong food enthusiast and gardener. The one-story additions are sympathetic in square footage and do not extend past the furthest point of the existing patio. A small canopy roof over the rear door adds about 30 square feet of building coverage. This canopy is important for watershed and safety during inclement weather. The design also includes a new front porch. The porch will soften the transition from the public to private realm, enrich the architectural character of the home, and extend Marianne's living space out into her community. Okay. So as you can see here, this is the existing condition. It is also shown in the bottom right corner of the physical board. Okay, and the rendering shown here illustrates the proposed design. The exterior transformation of the home invokes a charming cottage feel through the use of craftsman architectural features. The combination of traditional elements such as clapboard siding, cedar shingles, paired box columns, and decorative brackets upgrade the existing materials and details. The proposed architectural components add depth and dimension to the design while preserving the scale of the home and maintaining massing consistency within the neighborhood. Lastly, the anticipated color scheme of predominantly cream, natural wood, and aged copper is warm and approachable and will be complementary to the proposed landscape improvements. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, I have
Carl,
a
do
few.
you have anything first?
No, when we get to site plan,
Okay,
talk.
questions from the board?
Yeah,
Tom?
yeah, I have a few. Could you, just for the record, go over the variances you're requesting? And there's one that I think I see on your plans, I don't see the zoning officer mentioned. So if you want to maybe address the front yard setback especially, just please confirm the variances you're requesting.
Sure. So we're requesting a C variance. And in terms of the front yard setback, the proposed porch does extend over the front yard setback a maximum of 14 inches. And because the square footage of the porch in that portion does not exceed the allowable amount, we did not need to request a front yard setback.
So
variance.
in distance, it needs a setback, but because of the small size, it does not. That's what.
Correct,
okay.
yes. It didn't meet the threshold that kind of tipped the scale.
And the zoning officer did have a couple other comments. You want to address the 3 comments after the variances, one about neighborhood average calculation, the AC location, and the patio encroachment and the possible encroachment in the back?
Sure. So we do have another expert here who is going to speak more to kind of the site specifics,
Okay.
if you would be amenable to.
I recognize him, that's fine.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, just for the technical end of this, are these the same pictures that we have in our packages?
They are.
Okay, I think, I'm not sure all of them are. Are you planning to provide
Yes,
the
I
disc?
have them.
You got the
It's a-
disc?
Yes, we could call this Exhibit A1,
Okay,
the whole.
that way we
entire-
have, and they were the pictures were taken by whom and when?
So they were taken by various members of Clausen Architects, oh gosh, in the spring of 2022. And there are potentially some additional ones that have been taken as recent as today.
And then they fairly represent,
Yes, no changes have been made since the time of these photographs.
okay. Anything else for the, okay. We'll move on to your next witness.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'll swear you in.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Sure. My name's Mike DiGeronimo. It's D-I, capital G-E-R-O-N-I-M-O.
Thank you, and I believe you've appeared before us relatively recently.
I've been before the board several times, yes.
Any changes to your credentials since the last time you appeared?
No? No?
I imagine the board would like to accept you once
Yes,
again.
we will.
I'm
Happy
just
to.
noting again, for the record, professional planner is licensed
For
as a
the,
professional.
yeah, I have an architecture license as well, but for the purpose of this application and planning, yes.
Correct. Thank you.
Right. I'm just gonna go back a couple slides here. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the context. I'm happy to answer some of the site questions as well, zoning considerations, and talk a little bit about the variance case itself. So, as you mentioned, I did submit this presentation as an exhibit. So, as Lee had said, these images have been are mostly in what was in the original application, and there are a few, and so they're there. As far as why we're here to request a C variance. The primary variance we're looking for tonight is for building coverage. There's some existing nonconformities on the property, and I'll go through some of those as well. And then there were a few things as a result of staff memos that I'm happy to talk about as well as part of our presentation. The home is located in the R6 district. It's on the west side of Huntley Road. The image on the upper left, again, is in the package, is of the front of the home. It's a 1954 ranch house. I'll show you some of the pictures of the neighborhood, but in general, this part of town was developed at the same time. Most of the homes in the neighborhood have a similar size, shape, footprint, height, and are very consistent and have remained that way for most of the time. The home itself has a driveway that runs up and a detached garage in the northwest corner. There's a side entry that you can see in the two right images that comes off the driveway now. There is pavement in form of patio and other sort of coverages that sort of wrap around the side and back of the house. And these are the areas where Lee had shown the proposed additions in the rear where they're occurring. So they're sitting over areas that had existing pavement on them already. The neighborhood is a mix of these ranch homes. All the lots are very similar in size and shape. The setbacks are fairly consistent, and most of the home types are very similar in their layout. There have been over the more recent years some additions to the neighborhood. In some cases, larger scale additions and renovations. In some cases, new construction. You can see in the image on the upper right, the home to the immediate left of Marian's house was a fairly recent construction. It's substantially larger and taller than the original homes in the neighborhood. Her house is just beyond the blue car there, so you can kind of see its position relative to that. There are some others, like in the lower left, that have had some pretty substantial additions, and the scale and massing have kind of changed for those. But the majority of what you would see on Huntley and some of the adjacent streets and blocks are what you see in the upper left and lower right, which is a ranch house, a ranch condition. And the setbacks and driveway and garage locations are very, very consistent across the neighborhood. The site analysis that was provided by Clausen Architects in the application showed a zoning analysis that overlaid the site survey. So what you see in this image and what you see in that drawing that you have in your packet, the hatched areas indicate the pavement on the lot. So as I had mentioned before, we're requesting tonight a variance for building coverage. There is a nonconformity as it relates to the lot coverage. And I'll show you a little bit about how we're addressing that. We are doing some trade-offs with the new construction and removing some pavement to kind of balance that. It actually nets out slightly less than what's there. So that is part of the consideration of this case. There is a non-conforming side yard setback that would be on the left side of the lot, the south side of the lot. It's at 5 foot 9 inches where 8 foot is required. That's an existing nonconformity and exists on the property today. As far as the proposed condition, the diagram in the upper left shows the kind of the two additions that are put on the back. So you can see the relative size of it. Lee had mentioned some of the square footage, but that's the kind of additional floor area. In terms of like the floor area or the FAR calculation, those were the areas that would qualify as enclosed floor area, heated space, and then in addition to that, building coverage would also include the front porch and the canopy roof that exists, that's proposed over the rear door. So all those factor into the building coverage calculation. And it's a little hard to see on the slide, I apologize, it's probably better in your packet, but there's a red hatched area that indicates new pavement, and the green hatch indicates areas that we're proposing to remove pavement. And again, we're overall removing more pavement than we're adding, so there's a very slight reduction in lot coverage, but it still would be over the permitted allowable coverage, and so it would require variance as an existing nonconformity. There are a couple issues that were mentioned in the staff reports, one regarding the patio, and in Ms. Knight's memo, she had mentioned that the patio would be allowed to project into the rear setback up to 10 feet. We did not have dimensions on it originally, so we did go back and add it for this presentation. And that patio does project about 2 foot 1 inch, so it is within the 10 feet that would be allowable based on her memo and her comments. The other issue that came out as a result of her memo and the engineering memo was about the air conditioning condenser. We did not have a dimension on that in the original submission. It is located 4 feet 3 inches, I believe, from the property line. In this particular zone, the AC condensers can be need to be 5 feet off, so that actually would require some additional relief.
And that's in the back corner?
That's in the back corner, yeah. It's a little hard to see on the diagram, but it would be in that back upper left corner. That is the location of where the condenser is now. It's sort of an ideal location from its current condition, but also from the way the architecture on the landscape lays out. So I think Mary Ann would like to keep it in that position if she can. She's willing to go a little taller with the fence in that area if that's something the board would consider as a condition. But it sort of makes sense from a location. So if we can ask for additional relief as part of this tonight, we would like to do that as well. The front porch, again, Leah had mentioned, the ordinance allows for a projection of up to 6 feet, but it cannot be no more than 50 square feet in area. So the projection is 14 inches. I don't remember the exact figure, but it's definitely under the 50 square feet. So it is an allowable projection in the front yard.
Just briefly, while we're not too far from it, do you have the setback figure to the air conditioning unit that you're asking for the additional variance relief?
So 4 foot 3 inches would be
4
to the.
foot 3, okay.
All right, questions? Carl?
Yes, a few. So you received our memo?
I did,
Went
yes.
through it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna go over a few questions off of that. You did address a few of them. So as far as the AC unit, you talked about behind the fence, how high is the fence?
Currently, I think it's a 3 or 4 foot fence. I think you'd be willing to do a privacy type fence for that section, if that's
So-
amenable.
In lieu of a fence, maybe some landscaping around it, higher landscaping to shed it, really up to the board and the applicant on what works best. I'm okay either way. Just some additional shielding, would probably be nice there. Any trees being removed for this?
There is a tree, and it was noted in Mr. Linson's memo, in the rear yard. It would be removed as part of the improvements here. There is a new tree of a similar size. I don't have the exact caliper, but I don't believe that one requires a tree replacement. It's not big enough, but the one that the landscape architect had proposed is of a size that I think meets that, and I think we'd be happy to talk to Mr. Linson and coordinate that as a condition of approval as well.
Yeah, while we're on this, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, just while we're on the subject of trees, I meant to ask the applicant, but I'll ask you since you're standing there.
Yeah.
Mr. Linson did also note that there were no measurements mentioned for the 6 evergreens proposed, and he's suggesting they be 6 feet high when planted. Is that an acceptable condition to the applicant?
Yeah, the abrevieties, yeah.
Yeah, well, he referred them as evergreens, but,
He recommended 6 feet.
yeah, a minimum of 6 feet.
Yeah,
Okay, so you'll agree to that, would agree to that as a condition?
yes.
Okay.
That might be something nice buffering around the AC units as well. A couple of them around there instead of going with a higher fence. Like I said, I'm okay either way, whatever's agreed upon. As far as so you're doing this without a lot grading plan?
We requested a waiver from
Yeah,
that.
so here's a couple things with that. I'm okay with the waiver on a few conditions with it. One, any soil that's being dug up has to be removed from site, not to be used to regrade the site, to make elevations higher or lower, to potentially negatively impact the neighbor. So whatever is taken out for foundations or putting the sidewalks in, that has to be trucked off site. All right. There were 2 items that I saw as well. On the driveway, halfway up the driveway on the right-hand side, there's a jut out. I'm guessing that's a curb. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's right in front of the driveway to the right.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, it's a Belgian blocks. It's
Belgian
just
blocks, so-
when the driveway was repaved, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, that was all pavement before.
Right.
And when Grace came to get the permit, we found that out, and I put back dirt in that area.
Okay.
So that's what that Belgian block is. So there's just like dirt there instead of pavement.
Yeah, it looks like maybe, I don't know, 4 feet of Belgian block coming off the driveway.
Coming off, you mean from the garage to where the trees are?
No, can you pull up your?
Would it be that planting bed to the right there? or the-
Yeah, it's right where the planting bed
Yeah.
is, so right in front of the planting bed,
Yeah.
Oh.
exactly.
I think you can see it in the site. There's a little angled portion.
Oh, yeah.
But I think have you since removed a portion of that? With the driveway, is it straight now?
Yeah, the driveway
Yes,
is
okay.
straight.
I think I have
The
a
driveway is completely straight, yeah.
So that angle point in is eliminated. It's just straight, yeah.
So
Yeah,
in
it's
that
straight up.
lower.
So bottom left-hand
Yeah,
picture.
Yes,
It's just straight, instead of on the site plan, it shows that it's straight about halfway
yeah.
and then curves in a
Yeah.
little bit.
It doesn't do that.
Okay, so then that jutting out of that angled piece of Belgian block is gone.
It's already removed. So
Okay, got
that analysis was based on that survey. Some of that pavement as a result of your repaving had already been removed. So
Okay.
as part of this application, we would do the other removals for conditions.
And then in the rear of the property, it looks like there's a retaining wall on the plan.
Yes.
Is that retaining wall the property owners?
Yes.
And then it looks like it continues on the adjacent rear property owner.
No, there's
So-
3 retaining walls that are there, they've been there.
So there's one basically along the rear property line,
Yep.
if you pull up the site plan.
Behind the
It's on
garage.
there. So it shows that, I wanna say about half of it's on your property, half of it's on the neighbor's
No,
property.
it's not on the neighbor's property.
Well, according to the survey, it is. So if you pull up the,
This wall here.
yeah, if you
It
pull up.
looks like at this point, it
If you
goes
pull
over.
up the landscape architecture plan,
I think I have,
it shows it like that. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that
Mm-hmm.
what's yours is yours. If there's something happens, who's responsible? Who's the ultimate owner of the wall? And where does it end with you and begin with them?
So that wall, okay, oh, I see what you mean. It's all the way, I don't
Top
know.
left corner.
I don't know who that belongs to, if it's the neighbor on the street, on Clark Street or next door, but we're not planning to touch that.
So no impact to the wall whatsoever?
No, no.
Yeah, that's just something.
There's only
that's
only planting out there.
Okay.
Nothing else is happening. Just those, the second set of steps there on the left of
the-
that's the only,
The 1-2 steps.
yep.
Yeah, and then in the rear, all the way by the property line, that's my concern. Because
There's yeah.
it's showing, the wall is showing partially on yours up to about half the length of the wall, and then on the rear neighbor. So, you guys in talks, you typically, you wanna have the retaining wall all on one person's property, because if anything does happen, that one property owner has it. I understand it's probably sloped here a little differently. However, I don't know if they're here tonight, but
No.
I'm assuming that you notified them. So if they had any concerns, they would be here tonight.
Well, they just put in like new retaining walls too, like a few months ago. So, nothing came up. When we redid the retaining wall that you're referring to with new stones,
Okay?
that part wasn't touched. Like, I think that's like an old cement wall or something there.
Okay.
It's not,
Because on the site plan, it's just showing that it stops
Yeah.
at the property line.
Mhm.
And then when you refer to the landscape architect plan, it doesn't. So,
okay.
which is it? I'm assuming it's the landscape architecture plan. And you guys didn't
Yeah.
just cut it off at the
Yeah.
property line.
Yeah.
So,
And how long has it existed like that?
I don't know, honestly, I never noticed it. It's like, there's like a, wall that's separating the Clark Street houses up there.
do you know the
with
height, the face height?
The height of that, like, the wall that's on my property there is just like, not that high. It's like 3 or 4 feet. That top wall.
tiered. The
Yeah.
backyard
It's
is
a tiered
tiered.
backyard, there's
Got it.
3 tiers. So it's the one behind the garage, and there's a little half there.
Okay.
So I think what we would normally say in these types of cases is if it's something that you didn't just add recently and encroach onto your neighbor's property, if it's something that's existed for a while, in that condition, I'm guessing there's not an easement over the neighbor's property. Technically, the wall's on their property, it's their wall, and ordinarily that's how the maintenance works. If there's some issue later on and you need to acquire an easement from them, just be aware that that wall exists in that condition. It's off the edge of your property there.
And Carol, I'll just note, it's also shown on the survey, though it looks like the wall is closer to the applicant's property line on the survey. It looks like it hugs the property line on the other
Correct.
side.
Yeah, that's how I see it on the thing is you have 3 different plans with 3 different looks. So that just gets a little confusing with
I was just
Right.
the review
We
stuff.
don't have, do we have that?
I don't have that one.
This is an update with,
Oh, no, yeah,
with some
with
additional
flowers, yeah.
materials. There is a landscape plan in the packet.
I have a different
Yeah.
landscape plan.
Yeah.
That just has the planting, the types of plants that are there on the hill.
That's not a pond or anything?
No,
No.
those are the existing hostas.
Going back to the driveway question with the plans, because I think that
I didn't notice that before, but when you mentioned it,
angle piece.
I'm a little confused because this picture here, this shows as if this driveway has been moved inside the garage. And that actually the existing condition, picture 1.4, shows that the driveway extends outside of the garage. And it actually looks like, rather than, you know, where it says that jog has been eliminated, it actually looks like that's all, it was made a straight, that the whole driveway was made wider. Because this is a straight, fairly straight-looking driveway, and when the Belgian block was put in, when it was repaved 4 years ago, it actually looks different than on this landscape plan for the existing driveway. The landscape plan makes it look like the driveway is narrower as you come into the garage than it is. And it doesn't show it shows the Belgian block in a different place. So I guess this, you know, right here, if you're looking, this is showing, is that supposed to be the future? Or is that, are you redoing the driveway?
More grass, I was gonna.
So you're going to redo the driveway?
There-
Not redo the driveway, but just put more, possibly up at that top part, to put more grass, to make it less pavement up there and more green.
Okay,
So you're gonna remove a portion of the
Por-
driveway?
correct.
Remove a
To
portion
put
of.
grass in?
Correct. So there's some additional pavement that's coming out.
Yeah.
There were some that was done during that repaving effort, but there's some additional
okay.
that would be
Is
part of
that-
this application.
Is that reflected in the drawings, these
This is
drawings,
gonna be some
for the
more-
calculations for like?
Yeah,
what
the calculations are
purpose is?
based on that final configuration that we're proposing.
Yeah.
Kind
okay.
of to put
Yeah, yeah.
more, the arborvitae that are
Yeah, yeah.
already there in the driveway are gonna go all the way up to the garage and put a little more grass, so it's just more green in the back and not as much driveway. That's why it's kind of like, even with the garage door. On the landscape.
That's where your less than pervious material removed from, lower that lot coverage.
Yeah, so there's some areas
Yeah.
along the driveway and kind of that wrap around the house that had
Yeah.
pavement that it doesn't need to be anymore.
Right, right.
Okay, other questions?
Yeah, can you testify to the actual dimensions of that proposed porch in the front?
The actual dimensions of it?
Yes.
Do you have the? Yeah, go ahead.
Just come to a microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the front porch is about 18'6" wide by 6 foot
Okay.
forward from the face of the house.
That's more than 50 square feet. Yeah.
That's the total, not the little sliver that's over the
It's-
setback
yeah,
line.
14 inches is over the
Mhm,
setback. So
yeah.
14 inches is over the setback, so it would be a little more,
back.
like 20-ish, right?
Yeah.
So the part over the setback is 14 inches by 10 feet, was it?
By
18.
18 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's less than 50.
So
Any
the
more
porch-
questions?
Yeah, so the porch is how many feet wide from the house? to the-
6.
6,
And then 18 feet long.
right.
You consider making the porch narrower?
No.
You're allowed to say that.
I mean, if you're gonna have a front porch, it's like 6 feet is like the minimum, especially, yeah.
Yeah, we tried to keep it to a minimum, basically just enough to put, minimal chairs out there and then still allow a passage between, say, the furniture and the railing that is inset from the edge of the porch.
And then I just had another question. What's the distance from the new addition, I guess it would be the north, well, the right rear corner to the garage? Do you know the distance? Because it's not on the plans. I know it's getting smaller because you're adding, whatever the dimension is.
But that patio, that pavers on the side is gone too.
I'm talking about the right rear corner of the house, looking from the street, to the left front corner of the garage. What's the distance from the house to the garage?
I have a plan and we have a scale, if you
Okay.
could give me a moment.
Sure.
Here comes the architect ruler, we'll get it straight.
Guess I got a bottle. Don and I have plenty. I have one somewhere in the house, but I
That
can't
would-
find it.
We got 2 right now.
So for the rear corner of the kitchen, which would be on the kind of upper right side, to the garage corner would be 14 feet.
So then currently, right now, it's 30, 25?
No, currently right now,
It's hard to do on a small scale.
yeah, is 22.
It's 8-foot addition, so, yeah.
Any questions from this side? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, do you have any additional witnesses? Okay. Anything you'd like to, does anybody from the public wish to tell us what they think of this application? None? We will then move into, well, you have the opportunity for any last comments you'd like to make as the applicant.
I hope that you say yes. I mean, that house next door of mine is huge. And I understand, you know, I just think it's lovely, and I hope, I'm happy about the addition. And I feel like it's modest, and it'll inspire others, and neighbors saw the plans, and, you know, hopefully it'll inspire people to expand their house a little without having to make something that doesn't fit with the neighborhood.
Okay, we'll move into conditions and votes.
Yep, so it's a C variance, or C variances. 4 votes are required to approve it. I have a few conditions. Before I get to that, Carl, I know you mentioned that soil removal can't be used to regrade. Is that already encompassed in your memo?
That's
Okay.
already in the memo.
All right.
So if you utilize our memo as
Yep,
an
so-
exhibit, you're good to go.
Our first and usual condition is compliance with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. Secondly, we have that the applicant shall plant evergreens at least 6 feet in height when planted in accordance with the recommendation of the city forester. I know Carl also had suggested the possibility of screening that air conditioning unit, and just curious whether the board would like to impose any particular screening requirements for it. Whether it's plantings, fencing.
I think either a solid fence or planting, because right now it's a chain link fence, so you'd be able to see
As long
it.
as they follow the city's rules and regulations. It's fine.
So hearing no, I guess we'll just require that it be screened in accordance with the city ordinance. So that makes 3. That's the extent of the conditions.
I'd just like to mention again the issue with the 6-foot trees. The applicant agreed to make that a condition, that the new trees in the back would be minimum, or the new arborvitae's, I think you call
Yeah,
them. would be
that was the
minimum.
second one I.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it, okay.
No problem.
I need new ears, sorry.
The ones to the, along the neighbor, or the chain link, not the ones on the side of the driveway, but the ones
Right.
along, yeah.
Okay, is that just primarily for the air conditioner, or is that for privacy? Because a 6-foot tree with a 32-foot house next door is
Yeah.
really kind of functionally obsolete. If that's the right word to use, I don't know. I'm not against the trees, don't get me wrong, but hopefully they grow really tall.
I mean, I wanted trees there because the patio
Sure,
would be close
sure.
to it, so.
And we're
And
going to,
sound.
I'm assuming we're going to follow Mr. Linson's request
Yeah.
for 6 evergreens to be at least 6 feet high.
That was the intent of my question. Yep.
At least I think that's a 6 in the parentheses
Yes.
there. But if we need a 7th, to fill the space in.
Nah.
Okay, who would like to start deliberations?
I can start. I think it's a really nice plan. I appreciate that, it's a modest-sized house, and you didn't try to make it, a bigger house than what you thought your neighborhood could support. The architectural plans are really nice. I think the landscaping plan looks really good. And really, the main variance is a side variance for an existing condition, plus the some lot coverage. So I think I can support this.
Yeah, I can support it too. I appreciate while you're building the addition, getting us a small reduction in lot coverage. That's a big plus. The side yard setback is an existing issue. And the maximum building coverage, while it is a large increase, it is, as has been noted, it's not out of scale with what some of the immediate neighbors have done. So I can support the application as well.
Yeah, I think there is so much to like about this application. I mean, starting with you're keeping the scale of the neighborhood. You clearly love the neighborhood and the house you grew up in, and it's great that you're keeping it. This is modest. Everything the Historic Preservation Commission said about improvements to the facade is great. And what the others have said about landscaping and reducing building coverage. The only thing I could think of is you might want 2 sinks in that primary bathroom. But I certainly can support this one enthusiastically.
Thank you.
And, oh, yes, and the lot can certainly handle the slight increase in the size of the house. It's a fairly deep lot, and the Hosta are gorgeous.
Anything from this side of the house? Well, from what I've heard, it seems that this is a nice application. It looks like a nice application that that will be a benefit to the neighborhood. I don't see any negatives that could be brought up relative to either the master plan or the zoning ordinance. So I would look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
I'll take Mr. Nelson second. Okay. Vice Chairman Loikis?
Yes.
Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Zahn?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Chairman Steiner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
And congratulations on your first presentation.
Again, remember to watch the resolution, which will come in about 30 days. And we keep saying it, watch the resolution, that everything's in it properly, and that you follow it, because otherwise you'll be held up, and it takes time. Okay, we will move to the next item on the agenda, Mr. Shilsky, 42 Nob Hill. See, we gave your architect enough time to get here.
Yes.
All right, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Mark Shilsky, Schilsky.
Thank you.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about your application and explain who your witnesses are and what the variants are that you believe you need?
Sure. I'm Mark Shilsky, the owner of 42 Noble Drive with my wife Allison. We have 2 small children. Eli is almost 9. He'll be going to 3rd grade at Franklin next year. Jordana is going to actually be at Wilson in kindergarten next year. She's almost 5. We've lived in Summit now for 4 years. We're actually both from West Orange. My in-laws and my mother still live there, actually. So we moved out of Manhattan 4 years ago. I've loved Summit ever since. And as far as this particular application is concerned, we're actually inspired by the previous owners, the Fergusons. They had actually done a bunch of the architectural work on the backyard, which is it's a little bit awkward shape. It's really 2-tiered. The bottom section had a dilapidated wooden deck that really needed replacing, which we've actually done already. And then there's an upper portion, which we're not really touching. But what we've done to date is we demolished that old deck, replaced part of it with like a Trex-like deck, replaced another piece of it with just a regular stone patio. And then we've also built another stone patio. Again, the backyard was a little awkwardly shaped and sloped. And put an outdoor kitchen there as well. And what we're requesting today is a couple of setbacks related to another patio, which will be covered with a pavilion, so we can be outside when it's either raining or too hot or too sunny. We also need just a little bit of increased impervious coverage just to make the let's call it the kitchen patio, just fit more seamlessly in that area because there is a retaining wall. We want to build kind of right up to that. And then the other main thing is we have a swing set as well. That needs a setback variance as well. And That's the majority of it.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, would you like to introduce your witness?
Sure. It's my architect, Joel Safaro, Joseph Studios.
Actually, before we move ahead, Joe, I'm sorry, Joe, I have one question. Chairman, all that work was done with permits?
Yes.
And I'll just,
I'll hold this up.
just noting for the record, there's no members of the interested public with any questions for the applicant at this point. So if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Joseph Solfaro. Last name Solfaro.
Thank you. And can you briefly describe your background and experience for the board, please?
Sure. New Jersey licensed architect. Been practicing for over 12 years here in the state of New Jersey. Also do some work in Pennsylvania and Newark. Most of my work is predominantly in single-family residential, similar to this nature.
Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept his credentials?
We'll accept your credentials, and please go ahead.
Sure. So piggybacking Mark's perspective on his home here, we are proposing a couple C-use variances. He has an existing non-conforming condition. When you're looking at the site plan, you'll see that on the left side. It's about just over around 8.5 feet. The way in which the home was originally built encroaches over that side yard setback. In exploring the rear of the property, he has a pretty steep slope, and you'll see a retaining wall kind of protecting his building. That slope is high in the back and low in the front, coming all the way down to the street. He has existing storm sewers on the back that's currently taking this stormwater off his property and going down. He has also installed a stormwater retention system, a culvert type system, chambered, to help mitigate any additional stormwater that he has back there, especially with his recent project for the patio expansion and the hopefulness of continued patio expansion. In trying to get Mark a more useful backyard for his site, he's limited between the retaining wall and the house at some areas of about 12 feet up to 20 feet. He said he has a patio over there, which he's recently, and a deck, which he's recently refurbished. In regards to the covering, in terms of trying to find a sweet spot for that on his home to complement the existing architecture, he has a fair amount of natural light coming into the back off of the deck there, a little bit of a sunroom and a living room. And in terms of placing this rooftop structure without limiting any additional sun coming into his house or the views to his backyard, behind the fireplace, which is the location of this, is a nice spot to nestle that. Otherwise, he's kind of diminishing the quality of his interior living space. So in an effort to get him some sort of covering and heat that we have today, a nice intimate area, we're proposing to put it on this side yard setback. It does encroach a little bit over the side yard setback that he has now based on following that line. It's because of the building. The building was not built parallel to the existing side yard property line. So by following that line, it comes out to about 6.5 feet, of which it's 8.5 feet, the existing corner of the building. There's no windows on that side, so it complements it. It's actually kind of at the top of the hill, so it's not really visible to his neighbors either, and it's pretty screened off. So it's not visible from the street. It's not really visible from any of his neighbors. It provides some safe harbor and some ability for him to extend his family and his entertainment out back with a nice cozy area over there. So that's where we explored a couple different locations of placing this pavilion, but that one seemed to be the most complementary to get the goals of improving his family's experience in the backyard, and that's what generated that location. The play set is where it is. That's currently over the side yard setback, and it's up the hill there. I think it's been there for a number of years. I don't think he realized he was supposed to submit a permit for something like that, and so we're proposing a variance for that as well. That is kind of the only flat spot that's not below that retaining wall. It sits up on the hill. Everything is sloped. It's over 10, 12 feet as you go up above that retaining wall. Below the retaining wall and between his house to radiate is kind of the only flat area that he has where he can actually entertain or live. There's not much he can really do on the hill up there, but maybe sled with the kids in the winter. So he's limited in his location of what he can really develop in his backyard. Recently, he put that patio over there on the side for an outdoor kitchen space. We designed it as two separate areas so there can be kind of a hangout or entertaining area where the side that we're proposing with the covered space from the rain and all is off to the side and a little bit of a quieter area, lounging area. Where he has the patio and expanded the kitchen, he'd like to just extend back to the retaining wall so he can have a little bit more walking room, and that's where we go over a little bit of the impervious coverage over there as well. Okay?
Carl, questions?
Yes, you make reference to civil drawings. We didn't have any.
Okay. We can get you those.
Yeah, we kind of need those to review to make sure that your storm tech chamber can handle your stormwater design.
Sure.
You make reference in 2 or 3 spots about it, but I got nothing.
Okay.
So if the board looks favorable upon this, it's already listed in our report. That would have to be a condition of approval that it meets the stormwater requirements. If not, then you would have to redesign your drainage system to adhere to increasing it or doing something else.
Understood.
I actually did ask for that information, and I was emailed it today, and it, based on my rough calculations, the stormwater system is slightly undersized by 12 cubic feet or so, based on the 257 square feet that's proposed to be added, because I think you had enough for 210 cubic feet. And then over if you add 257, a 3-inch storm over 12 inches, that adds another 64 cubic feet, which is, it puts you 12 cubic feet over based on what was on that drawing, if that's what the system actually looks like.
Sure.
And for a reason like that, you may have to expand it. So,
Yeah, the system, so it's a chambered system,
Yeah.
it comes in components, and we would be happy to add another chamber to make sure that we're compliant with
So
the.
does the board understand what that is? So it's a half pipe and it's stone on it, so they could take the cap off on the end and just add another section onto it to extend the unit. If the calcs are what you're saying they are.
So how do we word a condition if we were to approve?
I think Carl's already mentioned it's a requirement in their memorandum that they submit the stormwater management designs to the engineers. Engineers review it. If it doesn't meet with their specifications, they have to redesign it.
So nothing beyond what's in the letter is needed.
Right, that's,
Right,
What-
it would all be
yeah.
within the confines of the existing backyard, so there would be no impact to either the city right-of-way or neighboring properties. It's all within the confines of the existing location. And then with regrading the backyard, similar to the other application, any excavated material coming out, that has to be trucked off-site. Similar, there's no soil erosion plans for this, so I would put the same conditions as the last one on this as well. Basically, you could just use our memo, it has everything in there. The other thing, you're adding a proposed trench drain and an inlet. Could you just talk about that a little bit? Because I haven't seen the civil plans, I see it on your architecture plans.
Yes, so when you look at the first page on the cover page there, you'll see the covered pavilion, right?
Yes.
We want the pitch of the water to go away from the building, similar to what you're talking about. We don't want any water issues, so the pitch is back pitched towards the retaining wall. Between the retaining wall and the edge of the patio is where we're proposing a trench drain all along it. It's about, 12 to 15 feet long to catch any water, not add any extra damage to the retaining wall there or anything like that, and fully control any water runoff there. We're also providing 2 leaders on the top of the roof, so that the roof structure can control, similar to any other building. We'll have a leader and a downspout going right into that trench drain as well, so it's all controlled, no added runoff on the actual site surface.
Yeah, so you're using it like a curtain drain at a pool. That's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, it ultimately is all engineered and controlled and goes directly into that chambered system, so we're not adding any more sheet flow.
Okay, and with the calculation, I just want to make sure that when we receive it, it also has whatever the perk rates are
Sure.
and everything else. that-
Yeah, the engineer has the perk rates,
Yeah.
and we'll get the civil engineering drawing.
Perfect.
Granted, we move forward with a conditional approval or something like that.
That's the biggest concern of mine,
Okay.
and everything stormwater related, all the other aspects of it, I don't have concerns.
I think the stormwater drawing also needs to be updated because there's like an X on it, it's handwritten, it says, you know, look at, it doesn't show exactly where it's located. I think that needs to be,
That's on the civil plan that you received today?
yeah. So it's hand marked and it says, see attached approved plan for revised dry well design, but on the site plan, in this is it's A 2.0 architectural plan.
Yep.
It's crossed out. And that's on the one that I have from the email, but it's not even showing up on this drawing. They're both called A-2.0. But this one doesn't, this one shows the chamber and but then it's crossed out. Makes it seem like it might be in a different spot too.
We're proposing, I can show you on A 2.0, we're proposing it going partially underneath the patio, and then it sticks out to the flat grass area, so it sits between the retaining wall and the existing the lower patio. If you want, I can probably point it out on your drawing.
Excuse me, so to make things a little easier, because it's a lot of talking without the plans, my suggestion is, well, you're gonna have to do this anyway, when you go to building department for your permit plans, you're gonna have clean sets.
Okay.
So all the changes and modifications that you have to do to adhere to our memorandum, and also if you have to add on the chamber, it should be reflected in your architectural plans as well as the civil drawings, they should match up. So, you know, that's really a condition of the building department review, because once this goes, if this gets approved tonight, it goes to the building department, we want to make sure that everything is coordinated, and, you know, the architectural plans match the civil plans. It's not on one we have something and the other we have a
Sure.
Ferris wheel.
Sure.
So, that's the same thing,
We'll clean that up.
okay? But if you want to show her, I didn't mean to cut you off, I was just.
No, it's fine. I understood.
You see it?
Yeah, yeah. This is it, yeah.
Chairman, that's
Tom,
all I have on my end.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So the zoning officer notes, and I was out there this afternoon, I think her instinct is correct, that the fire pit is within the 15-foot setback. Do we have an exact measurement as to what?
The fireplace itself is around 15 feet, but the fireplace is centered on the rear wall. The corner of the.
No, the fire pit.
Oh, the fire pit, yes, the fire pit is within, it's right around that number. I would have to actually measure it, but it's around the 12 to 15-foot mark. The fire
It's
pit,
going to need, yeah.
Variance for that.
So I think we need a more precise number.
Yeah.
for the fire pit
Yeah,
itself.
Okay. Because you're going to need a variance for that, too.
The pit, okay.
And there's also a lot of activity between the playset and now the proposed fire pit. There's a lot of activity there, and the forester is asking for landscaping. So I think I would like to ask for a condition that some kind of landscaping plan, again, if we approve it, that there be some kind of
Yeah, I
landscaping.
spoke with Mr. Winston, who's at my house. I said arborvitaes or rhododendrons, I'm happy to put them to screen between my house and the Corbett's who live next door, because he also has a patio as well. I'm happy to put evergreens right there.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have the spirit, but I think we want something in writing.
So we would just normally require a condition that you submit a landscaping plan to the city forester for his review and approval. Is that acceptable?
Can they note landscaping details and vegetation type on their site plan that they have, so they don't have to hire a landscape architect?
Yeah.
Basically following the recommendation of the forester.
Yes.
I can
Yeah,
do
I
that,
think
that's
you
not a
just
problem.
And
indicate
the
that.
landscaping goes all the way back to screen the playset as well.
Right, all along the property
Yes.
line, basically from the corner of the building, if I understand it, all the way up
All
to
the way to
rear.
the back.
So no, I will not phrase that as a landscaping plan. We'll say they shall submit landscaping details to the city forester. Okay?
Okay.
For his review and approval.
Yep.
yeah.
Great.
More questions?
Yeah, had you considered trying to remove some of the existing impervious coverage from the from the property. And I'm not creative enough to figure this out, but there's a lot of driveway. And on again, A-2.0, the corner of the driveway with just diagonals, not necessarily the hatches, but the diagonals, looks like maybe if someone was creative, that could be turned into grass.
We hadn't considered it. The reason the driveway is the way it is because as you come up Knob Hill,
Yeah.
it's a very steep slope.
Right.
And so they put the driveway on the far edge of my property. And you make a nice sharp right turn, and then you have to turn into
Right.
my front-facing garage. And it's a great driveway. It's large and flat. My kids love riding their bikes on it, and driving on their cars.
Yeah, no,
We
it-
think
it-
maybe at one point we'll put like a basketball hoop on it at some point, but, no, we hadn't really wanted to do that.
Okay. We just like it when people balance what they're adding with taking some away. And
He inherited the driveway.
oh,
Which is
I,
one thing, but-
I know the prior owners, yeah.
I'm not an expert civil engineer, but
Yeah.
to be able to turn around in a driveway and go down the hill safely and be able to view coming out of the driveway, I can see as a tough situation. I'm not sure how easy it is for you to get in and out of the driveway, but.
Yeah, we
sometimes
back straight up and then make a hard left turn to get out, is usually how we do it, so, yeah, we go through that space.
So what they're kind of asking is there an ability for you to get in and out of the driveway if it were to be modified?
It would make it much more difficult, like, you know.
I did have one.
don't ask,
oh,
you can't
sorry.
say yes.
Go ahead, Tom.
I did have one more question, and the zoning officer mentions this too, and again, I was there today, so I saw it. The air conditioning condensers on the side of the house are not screened. And I'm sure you heard from the prior application that there is a requirement that there be some kind of screening or either a fence or plantings or something that is
Sure, I
screened.
can do that.
So that's, I think that's something else.
Is there a preference, by the way, I assume like a white fence type?
As long as it's solid, you know, something that, it could be
Or heavy
plantings.
plantings,
Yeah, what if
okay.
you just continued your array of trees down
Or
towards
that.
the corner and
Oh, I see what
all
you're
looks
saying.
kind of monolithic or similar?
Yeah, I guess I have to think, because there's a Yoshino cherry that I planted there, and then there's a Japanese maple, and there's another tree, but, yeah, there's definitely something I can do there, but I'm happy to screen that in, that's fine.
Yeah, that's-
If you saw, actually, I put, there's like those little concrete blocks that are about this tall,
Yeah.
that I put there, which, just to like kind of section it off, but obviously I can do something a
Yeah.
lot taller.
Has to be more than that.
Yes.
I think the conclusion, we'll screen it and we'll propose one of the screening methods when you choose what you kind of prefer
Sure.
to propose.
Great.
So just. for
Any
this-
other questions?
Yeah.
Don, did you have one?
For the pavilion roof,
Yes.
in one picture, it looks like it's longer than it is wide. But then on the drawing, it looks like it's more wide than it is long. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So does it goes,
He's talking, yeah, this looks like it's long, it's wider.
yeah, it looks longer there.
And then any other way it looks.
And then
It looks like it's wider, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just the perspective. of it, right?
Perspective.
Yeah,
Trying to
it's,
capture the
it's,
whole
it is
backyard.
wider than it's long, yeah.
Exaggerates it on that view there,
Looking at these drawings submitted as part of this application, and I see a lot of bubbled areas without any description. Why were they bubbled out, or were they part of revisions to the drawings? It seems like it's
Yep.
unfinished product.
I can explain that. So there were two applications here. Originally, we proposed one application and we came back with some variances, and he wanted to build the kitchen area. So in the process, we separated the two packages, and in discussion with the township, they asked that we highlight what is going to be proposed in the variance package versus what was not. So when we were going back and forth in the revision, they could focus specifically on the things that were in the variance package. So we ultimately provided two topographic maps, two stormwaters, well, only one really, that I think was it, I'm not sure his name over there, but that he's seen. And so it was in just separating the two packages and flagging what was being changed for the variance package versus what was already approved under the other application that we were talking about earlier.
So how about the civil drawings? Are there any civil drawings?
There are, and they were part of the
And
first
we're not
package.
looking at them?
Correct.
Why?
We just didn't have them as part of this package. They were originally in the first package, so we will provide those.
It's really hard for me to make a decision with all this information missing.
So from a civil perspective, our goal is to comply with New Jersey's standards for stormwater. So we will comply with that, which I think are a little bit separate than the variances, because we're not looking for a variance in terms of stormwater. We will comply with the stormwater requirements, granted the C variances are acceptable. Similar to our discussion earlier, it'll be an expansion of the chamber, so it'll be one more bay. Okay.
I think there are going to be a lot of conditions that are going to have to be appropriately handled, especially in your letter, to make sure before this gets through the resolution phase.
Correct, because right after resolution, it would go to construction. So let's say we missed it on the resolution phase, they wouldn't get a construction permit.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't have all the conditions met. But we're not gonna miss it. We're just doing it. I was just giving worst case.
Okay, any other questions for? Okay.
I actually do want to just clarify, do you have the ability to give us the exact setback distances that you're asking for the playset and for the fire pit?
I don't have the exact dimensions for the playset. I can certainly get those to you in a written letter or something like that, or an updated sketch, if that were to be okay. I can estimate it around 5 feet off the side setback line for the playset. I'm basically judging this off of the professional surveyor's survey, which is where I basically retooled this site plan and layered the proposed work. The setback is basically where it is. If we needed to get a hard dimension off of that, I'm sure we can get a surveyor to get that, which professionally should come from a surveyor. They know exactly where the lot line is.
Are you comfortable saying not less than 5 feet? Because I'd like to have an idea of the worst case. I mean, are you saying it's not less than 5 feet?
I really can't say offhand. I'm not sure.
It's not less than 5 feet. I don't know what the line is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the fire pit, same?
The fire pit's probably further from,
But you will be providing those numbers before this resolution goes anywhere.
correct.
Yeah, I just want to have a
So-
comfort level that we're proving that we know it's not
Yeah,
worse than.
and what, we have used approximate terms. If we're talking about an inch or so in
Yeah.
any given direction, we can say approximately. So we can say approximately 5 feet for the playset, and I believe you mentioned somewhere between 12 and 15 feet for the fire pit. Is 12?
So I can get a better number for that right now.
Okay.
The patio that we're proposing in the back is 15.5 feet wide. The corner of it's 6.9 feet off the side. So if you cut the patio in half, to the center of 15.5 feet would be 775. 775 plus 6.9.
It's gonna be like 14.
Well, that's the center. Do you
That's
go from
correct.
the inner, or you have to go the outer edge?
No, we would talk about the outer edge.
So I understand, so I'm just trying to put myself in space there. So we are within that 15, which was one of your comments earlier.
You're within 15 feet.
But I don't believe we're within 12.
So somewhere between, so no
So-
less than 12? is
Yeah.
what you're comfortable saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a pretty.
But that's gonna require
Will
an
that give you what
additional
you need?
variance.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an additional variance for the fire pit, and we will say approximately 12 feet.
To the edge.
Yes.
Yes.
That's in the minutes, but by the time you get to the resolution, you'll have real
Yeah,
numbers.
we'll have the
Correct.
exact numbers nailed down. And if, I can give you my card after for my email address.
Sure.
And if you could get those to me as soon as they're available, that would be great.
No problem.
Okay. I guess I'm now supposed to ask the public what they'd like to tell us. They're all so wonderful here. In case anybody's just listening, the answer is there's no one here. So there are no questions and no comments, which means you get give us the wrap-up, whatever you'd like to say to the board.
Sure. So,
as the applicant?
Sure. Obviously, we hope that you approve our application. I know that there are some outstanding issues. We are more than willing to work with Ken. We will give you all the information that's necessary in terms of any additional requests, whether it's screening in, the whole side of the backyard, screening in the AC condensers, all that stuff, like perfectly amenable to that. If we have to put in a whole, I already put in a whole bunch of chambers for the storm check drain system. We gotta do another one, we'll do another one. My son certainly enjoyed having the excavator in the backyard. So, like I said, we are, happy to work with the town, and, whatever you need from us, we will get you the information, and we'll take care of it, so, thank you.
Okay. Conditions and number of votes.
Wait, are we going to have executive discussion, or?
That's what we're doing. He's giving us the conditions and the number of votes, and then we go into executive session.
So same thing, we're talking about C variances here. 4 votes are required to approve. The conditions I have noted are, first, the applicant will comply with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. Second, the applicant shall submit landscaping details to the city forester for his review and approval. And third, the applicant shall screen the existing air conditioning unit in accordance with the city ordinance.
Okay, who wants to kick it off?
I'll start.
Don?
I was out to the site today. It's, this looks like a great plan. The only thing I'm struggling with is and maybe it's just me, but I don't like we're kind of designing a plan for the applicant. I don't like the fact that we don't have the dimensions tonight. I mean, if we knew we had to go for a playground variance for the play set, why don't we have the dimensions tonight? I'm kind of struggling with that. If we had those, I would feel a lot more comfortable. I mean, it's not, I hate to say that, but that's the way I feel. I'm not opposed to the plan. I just wish we had those dimensions in front of us, because I'm, having gone through some of this stuff that you're going through now with my own home here in town, I was required to have the dimensions. And that was it. So that's the only downside to the project that I see, is that I kind of like to see the dimensions in front of me. That's all.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. That's why I was trying to push so hard to get a minimum that we're no worse than. And just hypothetically, if it turned out that they missed it by a couple feet, what would, could we have it come back to us? I mean, if it turned out, if it's a couple feet closer, I might feel differently in terms of approving it.
Yeah, technically, if it winds up being off and it's a few feet out, they're in violation, and they would need to come back to the board for amended approval at that time.
Okay.
I have to be honest, I'm struggling with the 6.9 feet off the property line. We have these zoning rules for a reason, and this seems like it's not something that is necessarily, in my mind, serving sort of the benefit analysis that we need to see for zoning. I don't think that, there are other places where you could put a roof on the patio. There's a lot of hardscaping there. So it's already 8.5 feet. The house is off the property line, and then but the requirement is 15. And so we're going from 15 to 6.9 feet. To me, it's just not a compelling, at this point, it's not a compelling ask, so.
I would say in their defense that given the odd shape of the site and the less than ideal location of the house itself, and I think a pretty strong argument about locating that covered pavilion, I would agree that if you see the windows and the layout of that backyard, there isn't really a great place for it, but this is sort of the one that does the least harm. And so I would agree that if you're going to put something like that in the back, that's probably the best place for it. And I just feel like based on the existing conditions that they've been given by purchasing this home, we should be a little bit sympathetic to that. And they're going to do everything they can from a stormwater management standpoint and a landscaping standpoint. as Andy just explained to us, if the dimensions come back to not what was agreed to in the resolution, then they have to come back in front of us, and I feel a certain comfort level with that path. So, based on all those factors, I would be in favor of this application.
Well, and further to Mr. Loikett's point, the next door neighbor is not 8 feet off the property line. There is a fair amount of space between the houses. And I certainly agree that this is a tough property to work with.
Well,
I wish there were a way to reduce some of the impervious coverage overall, but I can live with this one.
this happens to be a case where we miss Krista. All of those numbers would have been there. Because she would have made sure they were all there. I just wonder if we, we're talking, it would take us 5 minutes to table this and bring it back in 2 weeks with all of their numbers.
2 weeks is pretty fast.
I know we put them in conditions and hope that they can give all the numbers, but there is the other alternative if we feel strongly that we don't want to, that we want to vote with real statistics, which we don't have.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm happy with the no worse than, but
Yeah.
As am I.
Can you say that
We've
again?
done it
I'm happy
before.
with the no worse than, as long as it's no less, whatever, I forget the numbers were, but as long as it's not,
I can agree with that.
yeah, as long as it's not worse than what they said.
Anything from,
I just want some clarification. So if the numbers come back and they're not in compliance,
They are in violation, and they would need to apply back to the board to seek either approval for those extra couple feet or remove the encroachments.
so it's when they submit the numbers, we look at them, and then, the zoning, what's the whole process?
Who's the
Are they gonna-
enforcement
Yeah, who's
person?
enforcing this?
Yeah, so we would have the resolution that says you can build, you can have the place at 5 feet. You can have a fire pit at 12 feet from the property lines. And that's their approval. If it's then through inspection, and there will be plenty of inspections through the construction process, if anybody in the city identifies that they are in fact 10 feet from the property line instead of 12 feet, that's a pretty significant difference, and they could say, you are in violation, write them a code violation. They would either have to go to court and get penalties, or they can come to the board and ask for that relief for the extra 2 feet beyond what we gave them.
So it's after the construction is done?
Well,
No.
wouldn't
Or while it's
it,
going
wouldn't we
on.
see it on
At
the
any-
building
At
set?
any point.
Couldn't we, see, I was kind of assuming we know before we passed the resolution.
that's exactly.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they will be getting us those figures.
Okay.
And if they identify figures that are way off, then we'll tell them at that point they need to
Yeah.
come back and
Yeah.
correct it.
I want confirmation for the resolution that what they're proposing matches what they said tonight.
I'm
Right.
comfortable with that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our resolution will be the first stopgap. The inspector on site is the second stopgap.
As long as
Well,
they
wouldn't the
have-
building set be the second set?
Yeah, building.
I mean, when they go in for the permit.
Building permit.
If they've got approval for 15 feet and the building document, say 12, they ought to get a permit.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the second
Yeah.
stopgap. First is our resolution.
Yeah.
Second is there. Third is it's in the ground and it's wrong, we pull it out. That's as far as I can go, is three ways to cut it off. Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Vice Chairman Loikett,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Zahn,
No.
Mr. Malay,
No,
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Chairman Steiner.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. We will move on to resolutions for memorialization,
Okay. So,
and I think we have a bunch of them.
yep, we do.
Email me those figures as soon as you can.
So
And the playground.
So first we have 502 Morris Avenue, that's block 502, lots 3 and 4, ZB-23-2204, Thomas Holdings LLC. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Steiner, Vice Chairman Loikitz, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Kieran, Mr. Malay, and Ms. Toth. Can we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Loikitz,
Yes.
Ms. Toth.
Yes.
The motion carries. The next resolution we have is 11 Washington Avenue, Block 3703, Lot 2, CB-24-2249, Nurses Tavet. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Steiner, Vice Chairman Loikitz, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Kieran, Mr. Malay, and Ms. Toth. Do we have a motion for approval?
So,
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Malay, Vice Chairman Loikitz,
Yes.
Ms. Toth.
Yes.
The motion carries. The next one we have is 9 Edgewood Drive, Block 3403, Lot 2, ZB-24-2240, Elizabeth and Christopher McKee. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Steiner, Vice Chairman Loikitz, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Kieran, Mr. Malay, and Ms. Toth. Do we have a motion of approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
yes.
Vice Chairman Loikitz,
Yes.
Ms. Toth.
Yes.
The motion carries. Next, we have 22 Webster Avenue, Block 503, Lot 11, ZB-24-2244, Brian and Renee O'Donnell. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Steiner, Vice Chairman Loikitz, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Malay, Mr. Kieran, and Ms. Toth. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll take Mr. Malay. Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Loikitz,
Yes.
Ms. Toth.
Yes.
The motion carries. And then our final resolution is 42 Norwood Avenue, Block 1901, Lot 1, ZB-23-2192-2, Kent Place School. All
This is the one that was amended this afternoon.
Wait, amended, yes.
Yeah, we got a lot of,
Yes.
there were a number of
Yes.
changes this afternoon.
Yes.
Minor, but changes.
Yes, correct.
Everybody should have gotten an email on it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Steiner, Vice Chairman Loikitz, Mr. Nelson, Ms. Zahn, Ms. Toth, Mr. Feskins, and Mr. Chanchuli. Can we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Zahn,
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, you're right, I'm sorry. I highlighted you. Vice Chairman Loikitz,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli.
Yes.
The motion carries. Okay.
Now
so
you
that's-
have minutes.
Yep. So next we have the minutes for approval for July 1st. We'll do a voice vote and we will exclude those who were excused that evening, which were Vice Chairman Loikitz and Mr. Feskins. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion
Our
carries.
next meeting is August 5th,
Mhm.
and then we get a few weeks off, because we come back in September. So we'll see you all on August 5th. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.